everyone, welcome back to the channel. And today I want to show you how to set up a DigitalOcean droplet, install Docker, and run a Docker container with CrewAI installed. So we'll walk through creating this, and so it'll be, think of it like a virtual server in the cloud, right? So then we'll install Docker, and this is going to allow us to run applications in isolated containers. uh, and then we'll install CrewAI inside that container. So why does this matter? Uh, so using Docker to run CrewAI has, huge advantages. It creates a consistent, isolated environment so that CrewAI can run reliably no matter where you deploy it. So this means no more dependency headaches, easier scaling and a smoother transition from your deployment to production. Containerization, also helps you experiment and update your setup, without risking, your entire system. One of the things that's really cool about this is you can build a Docker container and image to run on any platform. So you can build it on a Windows platform and it'll run on a Linux platform, and vice versa. Okay, and you can build it on a Linux platform, but it'll run on a Windows platform or a Mac platform using Docker. Okay, so it's sort of universal. So the next kind of thing that I like to use it for is to build standardized container images that I can deploy for clients. So, for instance, I might have uh, a specialized crew crew AI image that is just for law firms or medical practices. And it has everything I need to build out some of the automations and functions at that practice or business. And instead of having to go in and build a bunch of stuff from the ground up, um, I can have a container that I just pull down and have them up and running, that installed like within minutes, okay, and then just make a few adjustments, say for branding and things like that, okay, and that puts them in place for that. And then there might be some hookups for custom tools, and making some of the functional calls, but all the core elements will already be there. Docker will already, the image and container will already be ready, okay, so you don't have to worry about that. Um, and CrewAI will be, your core CrewAI will be set up and ready to go for you to start doing work instead of having to go through a full-scale build out. All right, so that's sort of kind of the premise where it'll help you. So, but to get this started, what we need to do is uh, get through a regular Docker install build, okay, on your server, and then install CrewEye so that you have that image. All right. Now I've seen very few videos. Now I'm not a Docker expert by any means, and I've seen very few videos that really address the issue of installing uh, or the idea of installing CrewAI in a Docker container. And there's some really good, content creators out there. But I just haven't found one that didn't just skip through a bunch of stuff and leave you kind of, well, with nothing to use to actually build out a Docker container. Once you get your head around it, it's actually relatively easy, but there are some steps to go through. And there are a lot of different ways, at least several different ways you can approach this from desktop, Docker and build out images that way. And there's Docker registry, so you can register your image up in the cloud and park it there, right? So you can pull it down from anywhere. I mean, there's all sorts of different things. So, but I'm not going to go down that road today. We're just gonna build a container and get CrewAI, the core CrewAI installed on that so that you guys can play around with that and hopefully that helps or gives you some ideas. So let's get started. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to create a new DigitalOcean droplet. And again, I've got a step-by-step checklist here, and we're gonna do a very basic Droplet server install because we don't need much for this testing. And I suggest that if this is your first time or second time or maybe even 10th time you're going to go through this, just do the smallest or next to the smallest server selection for price and sizing because you just don't need it. You'll probably be killing it and deleting it, starting over, doing it a couple of times, and you make mistakes. And until you're comfortable, you don't need to scale up. And a small server will serve what you need. You're not running a bunch of GPU on this in this case, I should say, because if you're using CrewAI for, of course, AI stuff, in this case, we would be doing API calls, to handle your AI stuff. If you're running a GPU, or you want to run local Olama and stuff like that, it's a whole different situation. And of course, it's going to cost you a lot more money in server bills. But anyways, I digress. Let's get this going. So let's create a new droplet. Okay. And I don't care about the location in this case, but um, for reference, like I've said before, always pick the locations closest to you or closest to your customers for speed. So I'm in Texas, but I'm just going to select New York because we don't have anything local here. And I don't care about anything else really. Okay, so we've got our select create a droplet, choose a region, and then we're going to choose an OS. Okay, so come down here, we're going to select Ubuntu, and I want to get 24.04 LTS. LTS means long-term support, x64. Okay, and then we'll come down and we'll select a shared CPU, and we'll just go regular SSD, and we need a little bit more memory to get this installed to work efficiently. So at least go with the $6 plan. Okay, now remember it's by the hour, so you're talking that much an hour. So if you kill this in an hour, you're only paying a penny to get this thing fired up and give it a test, right? So not a big deal. Um, you're not going to be locked into $6. All right. So then we're going to go down. We've selected our server size. Yeah, SSD, $6. That's all we need for this. I'm not going to go over SSH key. We're just going to do a straight password install. Okay. And I've got one already ready here. Very simple demo password, standard. And we'll put that right there. I'll just paste that in. Meets all the requirements. Um, Host name. So in this optional change host name, I would go ahead and put CrewAI here if you do have other instances. At least that way you'll know what this instance is for. You're just naming it, so you'll be able to see it in your list. Okay, and we're gonna click create droplet. Now keep in mind you're building a server. Okay, it's installing the operating system Ubuntu. Let's go ahead and click this, and you need to give it a little bit of time. You need to give it, 5 minutes or so. You'll be able to get into your instance, within a few seconds, but do not recommend you going in and starting trying to build anything just yet. Because remember, it's still pulling down packages, it's still installing stuff, and if you try to um, install Docker and CrewAI while the server is still building and doing stuff, you run the chance of stepping on things and just causing yourself problems and things not working out for you, right? Okay, so I'm gonna let this bake for a couple of minutes, and we can click open your console by clicking this link right here, and you'll get your console. And this is sit here saying waiting for console for a few seconds or minutes, which means it can't connect because the server's not ready to give you a terminal instance yet. But when it does give you a terminal instance, it still doesn't mean that it's quite ready. I would give this at least a full 5 to 10 minutes to install, okay, before you go any further. Um, just to save yourself any hassle. So I'm going to actually pause here for a moment, so you don't have to sit here and listen to me ramble and listen to this thing bake, and we'll be right back and go through the next step. Okay, I don't think I waited that long, but let's just take a chance and see what happens. Okay, And what we're going to do here is we're going to run a few more commands. So assuming that our server is running and everything is installed in the background, um, hopefully we don't run into any issues, right? So we're going to run an apt update. We're going to install Docker. We're going to start Docker and enable Docker, and then we'll go to the crew, and then we'll verify that Docker is installed, and then we'll start the crew AI setup. Okay. Now you can actually just copy and paste it. I'm going to put this all in a link below so you guys can get access to this these commands and just make it really simple. So we'll copy that. You right click and paste as text and let it rip. Okay. So pull down any updates. It'll go through the installs and we should be good. Accept the defaults. It's going to install some more packages. So say yes. There. Okay. So let's see if we got something. Yes. So we, we can see Docker is there. You can also, I believe this version. Yeah. Okay. So Docker's installed. All good. Just from that. And I'm gonna clear that. And now what we want to do is set up crew. So what I like to do, if you do ls or do, you're going to see where you're at. We're in an empty folder, and so you can go cd space dot dot, and that's going to take us back a directory. Okay, and then we should be in what I call the root. Okay, so now you'll be able to see everything on uh, on the server. Okay, and what I want to do is, what I like to do is just put everything in the home folder. You can even create a custom folder if you want, but I'm going to put everything in the home folder. So I'm going to, I actually forgot to put that there. So I know, oh no, all right. So go cd slash home. Now we're in the home folder, which is this folder right here. Okay, and you'll see that there's nothing in it. Okay, and we're going to make a directory, crew AI Docker, and then we're going to cd change directory into that folder. And I'm just going to paste that, and boom, we should be in it. Okay, and you can see our path: home, crew, AI dash Docker, and we're in there, and you'll see that there's nothing there. So now we have to create a Docker file. Okay, and I have one pre-done here, and this will be included in a link that I'll put below. One thing to note, so this should give you everything you need to build a straightforward standard CrewAI setup. Okay, and it works out of the box. The only thing you might that you want to change is your name or your company name here. You're the maintainer. So if you do decide to um, put your image eventually up on, say, a Docker registry where you can pull it down from, you'll be the maintainer and you'll want it to be labeled correctly. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and put one of my old company names here. All right. And I'm going to copy this whole thing. I'm going to say copy. And what I want to do is open up the Nano, and I want to create a Docker file, and that's a capital D. Okay, a Docker file with a capital D, no extension. Okay, and this is going to become a file. All right, so we'll hit enter. This is going to bring you into the Nano editor, and I'm just going to right click and paste this text, make sure everything is good, and then we'll do Control O, hit enter. That wrote it, and now Control X, and we're out of it. Now we should have a Docker file. You see your Docker file, okay, and it should have those contents. All right, so we go back to our steps. Now we're going to build the image. Okay, so Docker build dash T crew AI space, and you want the dot right there. Don't miss that part. Okay, so paste this text. Make sure you have the space and period there as well. Okay, and so Docker build dash T CrewAI image, space, and a period. Okay, enter, and boom. So now what's happening is um, it's, it's created a container that will install Ubuntu OS again into the container. So think of the container as like a little mini server. It's got everything in it. Okay. So Ubuntu will be running in there, and then CrewAI will be running along with it. And when you connect to it and use it, and you add packages to it, they'll always be inside that container. So it goes anywhere you want it to go. All right, and that's what makes it kind of nice. It's kind if you're familiar with virtual machines and virtualization, then you know it's similar to that. Okay, very similar. This can take a minute or two to go through because we're building the whole operating system, and then it will install CrewAI and CrewAI tools and all the standard packages and stuff that come along with that. And after that, we'll run it and give it a quick test and show that it's running and create a quick little demo crew so you can see that it's working and operational. This is really handy because it's quick and easy, especially once you have the Docker part figured out. And like I said, I haven't, and there may be some out there, but I haven't seen any that really went through the Docker setup part. And I think it's really important if you're going to be doing this stuff for clients and production work, that you be able to do it in this fashion, and not be installing CrewAI just in the root of a server or something like that. You want it because the servers crash, then you're rebuilding things. You got different types of backups to deal with. So if this comes in, it's much more efficient. It's much safer. So let's give this a few to run. I'm gonna go ahead and pause because this can take just a couple of minutes. So, and I'll be back in a moment. One thing to note, when you get to this point where you see all these CrewAI packages and stuff being pulled down, it can sit here for a couple of minutes. Don't get impatient thinking that it's hung up. Sometimes it can take a little longer than others. And I think with a beefier server, more memory, it goes a little bit faster. But since we, in this case, chosen a small server, memory-wise, it could be kind of just hanging there a little bit, but it is working in the background. There's a lot for it to do, a lot for it to pull down. Keep in mind that a lot of the packages and things that it's already been pulling down are still starting to fire up and and fire up their processes and do things. So there's a lot going on in the background. Don't think that the server has crashed or you've done something wrong yet. Because it will eventually start moving. Um, if you're sitting here for an hour and it hasn't done anything, then there's something wrong. But if you're sitting here for 5 minutes or so, um, just you should be okay. Just give it a little breathing room. That's key to this whole thing is just a little bit of patience. But overall, it doesn't take more than 15, 20 minutes at the most to get this all set up. Okay, it looks like we're starting to get through these packages. It's been a couple of minutes, I think. It is creating the volume. This is very important. So one thing to note about with Docker is when you create a Docker image, everything that's in the core image, I don't know how do I say it? It's kind of like static. So you can commit changes into the core image, but if you don't approach that, then uh, let's say you start up Docker and you don't have a volume. A volume is where you're keeping your data, all your changes, so persistent data. Okay, without the volume, any changes that you make don't get saved. Okay, so all your changes and additions, such as creating crews and things like that, should be in the volume, right, by default. Um, because if you reboot the server, you will, and you don't have everything in a volume, you will lose it all. Okay, and N8N is, if some of you out there use that, N8N is very similar. It creates a volume and a data volume for the database and stuff. So all these things, not all of them, but some things sort of operate that way. So, but it's good to note and understand that there is a volume uh, that gets created, um, and that's based on the instructions we put in the Docker file as well. Without that, if you restart your server, you'll lose your changes if you had put them into a folder somewhere inside that container. So it's important to know that, and you'll see that when we start the container image up, that we will be working inside the home CrewAI folder, which will be our default location where we work from. So next, looks like we finished. Okay, we're all good. We got the latest build. All right. So at this moment, we're still en route. If you were to say do CrewAI, it's not running. Okay, we have to start it. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like. All right. Boom, no command found. Okay, that's because we have not connected to and started the container. So that is this command here. Okay, so, so Docker run it dash name of the container, and then crew AI dash image, the name of the image, and bash. Get that in there a little bit better. And then just hit enter. My screen here is a little squirrely. Boom. Okay. So give that a few seconds, and what this is doing is connecting to that container, and then we will be running inside that container. All right. And what you'll see here is your prompt will change so that there will be the container ID. All right. I'll give that a moment. Okay. Now you notice our previous terminal location was our server. Okay, root at server, but now it says root at, and then there's an ID. That's our container ID. Okay, so we're now there, and it defaulted to our volume, home CrewAI. Okay, so any changes we make in there will be saved. You don't want to make create crews outside of that. So now, to ensure CrewAI is running and install, we'll just type CrewAI. A little faster, server will go a little bit faster, but there it is. Okay, so we put in CrewAI, gave us all the information. It is running. If you wanted to do uh, check the version, we're at, we should be at the latest, if I can type, latest version. Yeah, 102. I thought it was 103, but 102. So we're good. So now let's create a crew. Okay, so CrewAI, create crew, and I'll say demo one. Okay, oops, got a typo there. CrewAI create crew demo one. Hit enter. And I'm going to select our provider for LLM. I'll just go with OpenAI. And 2 for GPT-4o. And then an API key. Don't care about that right now. So I'm just going to, all right. Boom. So now it's created our crew. So now if I ls, we should say CR demo one. That's our crew. All right. And you can traverse down into that and see all your files. In another video, I will show you how to connect to all of this with Visual Studio, so you can go in there and work on your, build crews and set up customizations on your cloud-based Docker instance, or maybe it's a local based instance. You can do that too. But anyways, I hope that helps. It's as you can see, it's pretty straightforward to set up Docker and install CrewAI running on Docker. And this is really what you want to learn if you're and use if you're doing production type stuff. Um, you don't want to be installing, CrewAI just in the default of a server or an instance. Docker is really the way to go in this case. That way, your image and your container are much more resilient and transportable. So, anyways, hope that helps. Have a good one, guys. Bye.